What a lovingly tranquil introduction that was. Feel like going to sleep now. I was hoping for something a bit more upbeat, but by the time I'd started, it had already started. So there you go, a nice tranquil beginning to this episode of the UX World. And welcome. I'm your host Kane Sims, and today we have an extra special episode because every time I begin these podcasts over the last, what is it now, 5 months or so, since the turn of the year, I've been wearing my UNPARSED t-shirt. For some reason, I've actually misplaced my UNPARSED t-shirt. It's in the wash because I've been wearing it so much. I got my UNPARSED t-shirt on, and I'm letting you all know about the UNPARSED conference, which is coming up this June. And today we are having an UNPARSED episode, an UNPARSED especial, where we're going to get into the details of what's going to be occurring at the conversational AI event of the year, of the decade, even arguably. And we're going to get into all the details day by day, what's going to be going on, all of the content, all of the networking opportunities, and much, much more. And so to take us through it and joining me to walk through this is Tom Hewitson, the co-organizer of UNPASS. Tom, now then.
Hello. Wow. I think is this my third time on the podcast or maybe my fourth?
Oh, is it? Is it your third?
I think it is my third.
Should we
I
check
think
that?
it's my
Because this,
third official time.
should we check that? So Video
The
X World, Tom Hewitson. If it is, then you may be entitled to a
the
cap.
of- the official I think I actually have a VUX World Cap.
I think you do.
I should
But
have worn it for this.
yeah, maybe you do. I'll have to double check. I know we had building a business on Alexa with Google Assistant. That was 3 years ago now. Can you
Oh
believe
my
that?
goodness, that
Uh,
and how times have changed, honestly,
oh
since
my god.
the era of Alexa.
Yeah, and I think you were also on.
I think
Were
we've been
you
on a
on? Were you
group
on a?
one.
Yeah, it was a reinvent recap, was it?
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There you
yeah.
go.
There you
But
go.
yeah, times have changed
Times
indeed,
have changed.
and times have even changed in the last 2 years, actually.
I mean, times have changed in the last year. In all honesty, since we did Unpassed last year. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons that we actually run this conference in the first place is because the space is changing so fast. And kind of as active practitioners in the field, like where are you supposed to kind of keep up with it? Because there's so much stuff kind of like coming out like the whole time. There's like things being announced or whatever, and it's a bit like, okay, great, but how do I actually like take this and distill it and understand which bits of it are useful, how to kind of translate the hype
Hmm.
into kind of something meaningful. I mean, I know like when we started Unpass, when we started discussing about the need for a kind of practitioner focused conference, that was kind of what we were saying is that we needed somewhere where people could come and say, hey, I've been hearing about this kind of hypey thing, and this is what I'm trying to do in order to implement it. And tell me how you're trying to implement this other thing, and we can share best practice.
Exactly, and I think that you know it's come a long way since large language models became on everybody's radar, and becoming a de facto way of building out conversational systems. Um, However, it still hasn't been properly figured out exactly how to leverage them efficiently and effectively and responsibly. A lot of technology companies and many of the ones that are partnering with us at OnPars have figured a lot of stuff out. But the enterprise adoption and the kind of product adoption of these things is still in its infancy, relatively speaking. We're only just starting to see businesses come out with large language model based chatbots. We're only really seeing the very beginnings of AI, kind of conversational AI interfaces making their way into products like apps and websites and things like that. And so it's for me and you, it seems like we've been doing this for a long time, and there's a new wave of excitement, a new wave of people coming into this kind of space, learning and wanting to learn how to craft really compelling conversational experiences. And that's kind of the heart of Unpars, is bringing those people together, as you suggested, definitely figuring out what's working, what's not working, and what are we learning. But also, is there anything that we can point to and say that bit does work? This is how you do this particular thing. That is a best practice that we've
Yeah.
proven out.
I mean, something that's literally happened in the last week or so, the kind of the announcements of GPT 4.0. And I mean, that system handled bargain more successfully than I have seen any conversational AI system handle ever. And that kind of level of bargain handling has been something. It's like the holy grail. It's kind of the kind of thing I've been working towards for like the last like 5 years, more than that, the last 7 years.
Mm.
And then just to kind of see it like demoed so nonchalantly, it wasn't even like the main thing that they were demonstrating. I was just like, wow. It's just incredible how things that seemed almost impossible just 6 months ago are now going to be de facto everywhere. And the way that we kind of have to think about the expectations of these systems. I mean, I think you and I have been around long enough to have lived through kind of a couple of hype cycles in this space, and the expectations for conversation assistants have always been sky high. But it
Mhm.
really feels like at long last, it might be possible to fulfill some of those expectations. And I think that is genuinely exciting.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and we'll see what kind of capabilities the API presents itself. But I think the whole idea of multimodal conversational interfaces is definitely hitting a point now where it seems doable. I know like OpenStream and a couple of others have been doing some really good work around that over the last number of years, but it hasn't, as I said before, hasn't really made it into products, hasn't really made it into
Mm,
services yet. And I think that when you see those examples from GPT-4o, you text 1 minute, you voice the next minute, you're sending an image 1 minute, you're getting an image back another. And I think having those capabilities natively in one place helps with the adoption, definitely. And the
mm,
thing with barging, as you mentioned, the limitations that we've all faced with barging over the years is that one, on the Alexa platform, you've got zero control over it. You cannot touch it whatsoever, can't even turn it on. Even if you could turn it on, it's up to Alexa to determine what happens to it and stuff like that. So you've got no control. In the contact center, the difference is that with ChatGPT 4o, GPT 4o, essentially what happened is the assistant recognized that there was barging and then said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and almost was as you would do in a conversation. If you kind of cut me off and I was in the and I got something mistook, I'd go, "Oh, I'm sorry." Whereas in a contact center, you just detect something, detect an audio signal, and shut up, and
mm.
that's it. Listen for an intent and move on. There's no way to correct that or deal with the fact that barging has happened. So there's loads of new capabilities that are we're seeing from these previews of these models and able to demonstrate now with ChatGPT. But all the rest of the models are not far behind them.
Mm.
Google's models are not far behind now with Gemini Pro, and so it's really given us a new suite of technologies to really craft what those kind of really ideal experiences are like, regardless of modality. It all hinges on a conversation technically, and so that's
Mm.
what I'm excited about with UnParsed this year is seeing how businesses and individuals are starting to think about how do you blend together these different modalities and these models that are capable of more than just textual understanding.
And I think that something that's kind of very interesting out of this kind of very rapid pace of technological change is what skills are needed in order to kind of continue to work with these systems. I mean, I was playing a little bit of devil's advocate, but I kind of said on LinkedIn, I think that in kind of a couple of years' time, 50% of conversation like design jobs and even conversational AI providers are going to disappear based on these changes in technology. And maybe that's hyperbolic, but I personally detect an earthquake that's going through our industry at the moment. And so it feels like a really good time. I mean, I don't have the answers. I don't think anybody has the answers, but it feels like a really good time to kind of get everybody together and to kind of discuss and share best practice, share what's working, try to kind of figure out, okay, what does the future for those of us that work in conversational AI look like, so that we can make sure that we've got the skills to kind of continue to be a part of this industry and to kind of help accelerate these kind of new great experiences that are kind of becoming possible, rather than finding that what we do becomes the old way of doing something, and that we're not really necessary for kind of creating the new thing. And I think that there's kind of both a huge opportunity and actually the largest risk that kind of those of us that have worked in this industry have ever faced. I don't think that you would have said a couple of years ago that people working in the conversational AI industry were at kind of significant risk of being laid off. But I feel like now if we can't kind of like adapt and take advantage of this technology, that is a very real probability or possibility.
Yeah, though the way I see it is that, it's not as, for me, it seems as though rather than it being a risk, it's more of an opportunity, because if you look at these models as they are, kind of raw out of the box, you can always spot, and I've mentioned this a number of times, you can always spot a chatbot that's been built with a large language model, especially if it's using RAG, retrieval augmented generation, because it doesn't really fundamentally understand what you've said. And everything you do say, it will treat like a question. So a great example is that I was testing the Vodafone's Voxy like sub brand chatbot. There was a press release about this chatbot that they'd made using large language models, using OpenAI. It's supposed to be fantastic. I checked it out. I was doing a little bit of testing, and one of the things I said to it is, "How do I go about upgrading my contract?" And the response I got was something akin to upgrade your contract is really easy. All you have to do is pay off your balance that's remaining on your contract, find a new phone, and then take out a new contract. Full stop. And I thought, that's not really how that business
Mm,
wants to handle that. If someone says, "How do I upgrade?" what they're telling you is that they're interested in upgrading. They're interested in giving you more money. What you need to start doing at that point is start guiding them through the process of upgrading. That
sure.
that shouldn't have ended with a full stop. Like it was it was treated like a question rather than an intent. It should have ended with, "Have you found a phone that you're interested in?" or something like that. And so this is what the discipline of conversation design will bring to all of these
Mm,
implementations is, yes, you can get a suite of developers to build something cool. And I would encourage those developers to come to UNPARSED, because yes, we'll teach you and share the best practice of how to build something cool. But also you have to have that design lens and that experience design lens on it, because you have to have empathy for the user. You have to understand what it is they're trying to accomplish, and then select the right kind of tools and architecture and technical solutions to
mm.
solve it. And it's not retrieval augmented generation in every single use case. Some of them it
No,
is, but not all.
and I think that also that's like a really good example of kind of, how businesses are approaching kind of LLM rollouts, and why there's still so much opportunity ahead, because everyone is thinking about it as a kind of an information retrieval system. It's like a glorified set of FAQs. The number of LLM bots that actually you can do something where you can actually like update part of your account or whatever. I don't even know if there are any really good examples of that, where it's kind of been integrated into back-end systems. Like the only kind of organizations I can think of where they're doing that are ones where they're doing some kind of hybrid LLM traditional NLU system, but the actual updating your accounts in the back end, that's still being handled by the kind of the traditional systems. And
Yeah.
so I think it does show that there is still going to be a bunch of work for thoughtful people to kind of do that integrating component of the process. But
Yeah.
yeah, what exactly the skills that you need in order to do that might be slightly different from
Yeah.
the kind of the skills that you needed before.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
I remember in 2021, I gave a talk at the Voice Talks event, one of the online events that Pete Erickson did with Google, as part of the Voice Summit. And it was right at a time when I was talking to a load of different companies like Zero Shot Bot and Got AI and Yellow AI were doing some stuff as well. And what they had done is they were all using large language models, but it was mid 2021, and ChatGPT wasn't out, and so no one really knew about them. And so when Yellow AI come out with something which was like, if something doesn't match your intent, we will automatically assign it a label and then automatically train your data based on the intent it should fit in. And the whole world is like, not the whole world, but like everyone who saw it was like, "How the hell are you doing that?" They were just using large language models. They were using
Mm,
GPT-2 or whatever it was, GPT-3 perhaps. And then Got AI and Zero Shot Bot and Vlooper and all these companies were doing some stuff definitely with using large language models. But at the time, it was called intentless models. They didn't call them
mm,
large language models. And so the
yes,
talk, the
I
talk I
remember intentless models.
yeah, it's intentless. So
Intentless models were all the rage for
yeah,
for about kind of 5 minutes,
6 months.
weren't they?
Yeah, but that's all it was. It was large language models. And so in that talk I gave at the Voice Talks, what it was about the future of conversation design, and that was what I was thinking. Then I was thinking this whole practice is in jeopardy because
Mm,
these things are going to change the way that we work. And so I kind of left that talk with the job of a conversation designer is going to be more about content curation
Mm.
And I think that's definitely coming to life, because you can't just take shit data and all of a sudden throw a large language model on top of it. You have to have carefully curated data. It has to make sense first of all, and ideally it needs to be written in a kind of tone that you want to replicate, rather than it being, super formal and have to do a lot of prompt engineering work to sort it out. And so that was one thing. The other thing was working on analyzing and improving and optimizing these experiences. I think the tooling's lacking in that respect, but still there's a gap. Even with the intent-based models, there's a huge gap in that. And three was spending time actually figuring out what you should do. What are
Yeah.
the use cases? How do we need to do this?
And there's still the kind of like the practice of content strategy, which like long before I got into conversation design, I was a content strategist. That's incredibly relevant. How do you make sure that the information that your bot is regurgitating is up to date? How do you make sure that it's been signed off by the relevant teams? How do you make sure that the things that it's kind of talking about, are like, there's a temptation for organizations to just publish something new the whole time. Every time they've got a new bit of advice or a new something, they publish something new, to the point that then users can't find any of their information. And the same is completely true of your kind of RAG based system. If you just fill that database with every single document that your organization generates, it's going to be giving the bot a lot of conflicting signals. You want to get high quality answers. You need to be very, very intentional about what's included in that database. And I think you're completely right that the future conversation design looks like a cross between content strategy and service design, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
I think that service design is a highly underrated thing in the conversation design space, thinking about how does this fit into the broader user journey? And that is only going to get stronger as these assistants pervade more and more of people's lives.
yeah.
And thinking about all those kind of different touch points is going to become increasingly important.
100%, 100%. We have this thing called conversational service design, which we've had for a while, and which is exactly what that is. It's like that, and that's the other missing link, is that if you were to create a chatbot tomorrow, or any conversational interface tomorrow, regardless of what technology you're using to do it, for those areas that add real business value, if you want to do something that's transactional, right? Not the FAQ stuff, but that when you get to actually doing stuff, most of the time businesses have never thought about that process.
Mm.
It's just something that's been running, policies that have existed for years, systems that have existed for years, jobs that have existed pretty much in the same way for years, with loads of little workarounds that have made their way in there over time. The staff that are running the process don't particularly enjoy it because it's full of holes and it's clunky. And so really the part of the missing discipline, which hopefully we'll get into at OnPars as well, is how do you work with businesses to re-engineer those processes, to make them streamlined, to make them efficient, to make them effective for the user, and then you can automate that with a conversation a lot easier than you can otherwise. And I think that's a really interesting space for conversation designers to be thinking about. I think Braden Ream posted something a few months back saying that he sees that VoiceFlow, shout out to VoiceFlow, platinum sponsor for OnPars, saying that he thinks that one of the areas that conversation designers will diverge in is AI automation
Mm.
designers, which I think
Yeah.
he's basically talking about service design. He's talking about engineering the process, designing the process, and then crafting the technology to follow the process, whether that's using a large language model, an autonomous agent, whether it's using a more kind of like rules-based approach with LLMs that supplement it to keep the conversation on track. However you decide to do it, the task at hand is going to become more about process design and then service design in terms of, as you say, how does that fit into the overall journey? What role does it play? And all that kind of stuff. And so I actually think it's an exciting time for conversation
Yeah.
designers and an exciting time for developers that are building stuff with these tools.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very glad that we've got Braden coming in, actually running a session directly on this subject, on large action models and designing agents, because I think that he's bang on the money that the next big wave of opportunity is that every single company is going to have its internal assistant that helps its employees to be more productive. I definitely believe that, and I see it in the work that I do, kind of training businesses in AI. That there are so many, particularly at the enterprise level, that are building these internal assistants, and that's going to be a huge opportunity for people who work in this industry to kind of get involved with that. So I think it's really, really exciting. And yes, thank you to VoiceFlow for being our lead sponsor, and also for sponsoring the Prompties, which is a brand new to Unpassed for this year. Do you like that neat segue I did there?
That was a good segue. Yeah, very good, very good.
So we felt that there were lots of people doing really great work in the space that weren't necessarily getting the recognition that they deserved. And we thought about it, and we felt that there was a need for an awards or a set of awards that maybe didn't take themselves so seriously, but gave everyone a kind of sense of, this is where the good work is going on. These are the kind of the case studies. These are the people that you can look to see how you can kind of improve your practice. And I'm really, really excited for the Prompties. They're going to be a lot of fun. We've got a very, very fun evening planned for the Prompties. I know, because I've just been signing all the paperwork for it. So yes, very, very exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun, and honestly, you don't want to miss out. And there is still just time. If you would like to submit your company or your product or a team member or even yourself for a promptee, I think the nominations close at the end of the month, so in about 10 days. So this really is, we're right at the end, and there will be no extension on that deadline, because there's quite a few to review, and we need time to get through them before the conference. But if you do want to kind of be in with a chance of being honoured as one of the kind of leaders in the field, then yes, you can go to the Unpassed website, and there is a section called that marks the Promptees, and there is a nominate for a promptee button on that, and you can go and click it. There you go. Look at that. He's found it. He's found it.
As if by magic.
As if by magic.
So,
as if you had done this before.
I know, it's unbelievable. So you can see here the categories that we've got here. 4 awards: top bots, so best conversational AI experience of the last 12 months. Ones to watch, this is the people who've been doing some great work over the last 12 months. Cutting edge awards, which is the people and teams who've been pushing the boundaries of what's possible with this stuff here over the last 12 months. And community champions, the people who've helped our industry flourish through selflessly partaking in community building and doing talks, doing events, creating content, sharing education, and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I'm really excited about this. And as Tom said there, Umpars and me and Tom don't take ourselves too seriously. And so this award, as much as it is definitely a real, true, genuine recognition of great work, and the promptees will be voted for by our speaker committee, nominated by you. So there's no personal biases involved in here, but there also is a little bit of fun involved as well, which you'll find out when you show up.
What I can also promise is that these are designed to recognize the kind of the actual practitioners in our field. So you are not going to see these being like given to like Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, etc., etc., etc. Like, this is supposed to be recognizing those of us in the community that are kind of trying to do good work. It's it's designed to be kind of community awards. They're not going to be kind of just handed out to kind of people that have got because of their fancy brand name or whatever. It's going to be more about looking at that nomination and seeing, like, is this really like a great experience, and the one that we want to kind of recognize.
Definitely. So yeah, so you can vote for that now. You can go to unparsconf.com. You can nominate. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate your team. You can nominate anyone who you think is deserving of it, and that'll be happening on the Tuesday evening. There'll be an immense the award ceremony, yes, but also a full evening of networking. There's going to be a party, which is pretty nice. There's going to be some good food there. The party's being thrown by VoiceFlow. Shout out again to VoiceFlow. And it's going to be an immense evening. And so get yourself there. The Monday, let's walk through the day to day, shall we? So Monday, we're starting off the proceedings with a bot jobs breakfast. And so shout out to Bot Jobs for being involved. Martin is an absolute legend. Bot Jobs were involved last year, did all the lanyards, all the badges, all that kind of stuff. So definitely couldn't do it without Bot Jobs. And so we'll be doing a Bot Jobs breakfast on that morning, followed by a series of workshops and a hackathon. And so, Tom, maybe you can give us some details on some of the workshops, perhaps, and then we can cover the hackathon.
Sure. So just on the kind of like the breakfast, this is like something that we took from feedback last year, is that people wanted an opportunity to actually kind of find out who is hiring at the conference, so that they knew kind of where to kind of go to kind of find jobs. And we actually decided to carve out a dedicated space right at the start of the conference, that you can come to the breakfast if you're not looking for a job. If you're just kind of want to come and have breakfast, that's absolutely fine. But there will be opportunities there to meet people who are hiring in the kind of the conversational AI space at that breakfast. And that will be a kind of really good informal opportunity to kind of find out about those jobs that maybe are just a little bit more on the down low than some of the others out there. So talking about the workshops, we've got a collection of workshops. First off, they're kind of two slightly different workshops depending on kind of which way you want to go. We've got, if you are kind of at the starting point in your conversation design career, or at the earlier kind of part of your conversation design career, we have a workshop run by Rebecca Evanhoe, famously the author of Conversations with Things, also the assistant professor at the Pratt Institute in New York. Yep. She's going to be doing a kind of introduction to conversation design, standard setting, to make sure that you know everything that you need to know. Yes, he's got the book. Is it a signed copy?
It's not a signed copy, no. Unfortunately,
if you bring your copy, I'm sure she would sign one for you.
I'm sure she will. Oh, hold on a minute. It's not. There's a little postcard in here though, which says thank you. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. There you go.
I do have a little personal message, which is nice.
We also have a workshop running at the same time from Awita Coleman from the Linux Foundation. She's going to be assisted by Emily Banzaf from Microsoft and Melinda Gallopon from Zendesk. And they are going to be doing ethical AI poker, which is such a great idea for kind of really helping all of us to get a sense of the ethical decisions that we need to make when designing these bots, but in a really fun way. We kind of wanted to start off with something that's super fun, super engaging. It'll be a right laugh, I promise. On the developer side, we're going to be running a hackathon for the first time. There are also prizes. Maybe in a second, Kane, I'll let you document some of the prizes if you want. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a really kind of great opportunity. We don't want it to be kind of like designers doing the workshops and developers doing the hackathon. We want to kind of bring both together. One of the reasons that we decided to add a developer track this year to UNPARSED is the conversations we had about designers are not the kind of, it takes more than just a designer to create a great conversational AI experience. And the other people, that their designers' key partners in actually delivering these experiences are developers. And so it makes sense to bring the two together and to facilitate opportunities for them to collaborate and to learn more about each other's worlds. And we think that the hackathon is going to be a really great space for people to get their hands dirty. We've arranged for a bunch of kind of experienced mentors to be there. So if you want to learn how to run Stable Diffusion on your laptop, or you're interested in using Llama to do something, we're going to have people there who are going to be able to help you to get started with kind of the various technologies. And we think that that's going to be a really kind of fun way to kind of actually learn how to create these experiences from scratch in a very tight time frame. So that's going to
Yeah.
be very, very exciting.
Yeah, and we've got our partners there as well. So we'll have
Yeah.
people from VoiceFlow, people from Core, people from Quick, all on people from Radiant, all on hand. So that if you decide to do something in one of those platforms, you're going to have support for the whole time, which is great. And then following that, we've got a great workshop with Peter Isaacs from VoiceFlow around prompt engineering, learning how to prompt, a tutorial and step-by-step guidance in terms of how to do things like prompt engineering and craft a compelling prompt. And then we've got Maaike Groenewegen, who is another legend in this space, who's doing a Convo Club cream tea on the afternoon. So if it's more of a networking session, you can turn up, no specific agenda. If you just want to go there and network with a bunch of fellow conversation designers and developers and have some cream tea in traditional British fashion, then you can do that as well.
I am so grateful that you pronounced Micah's surname, because I always just have to call her Micah G because I
Maaike
can't
tea.
pronounce it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard I've tried to learn it. I just can't get it right.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a unique name, a lovely name.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, and then
oh,
in the evening, so after that, and there will then be a hackathon. Like, they'll be pitching for the teams that have been doing it, and then some prizes. And then in the evening, we're going to be doing a spin on a traditional British activity, pub quiz.
of
We're going
course.
to be doing a conversational AI pub quiz, and we found a very nice oldie worldy British pub near the venue, and the questions may or may not be mostly written by ChatGPT, but they will be in some way related to the conversational AI industry.
Nice. In traditional British fashion. We are really making this, I suppose, organically a very British event, isn't it? So all those international people coming across, which there is quite a lot of. Last year, I think it was
Yeah,
something like 30% international. This year, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think it's that far away.
yeah.
And so a lot of people come from the US, a lot of people come from Europe, and some people come from Canada as well, and some South America. And so, you know,
Nice.
you can get yourself immersed in the British culture with some cream tea, a pub quiz, and
Yeah.
all that lot. You know.
I'm pretty sure that the first day is the most British of the days.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you count getting drunk at the Prompties, which probably
Yeah.
is also quite British,
That's
but
fairly British, yeah, and the after party, it's fairly British
and
as
the
well.
after party as well. Yeah,
But,
and the after party,
the after
maybe.
yeah, the after
We
party.
don't talk about the after party. You'll have to
No,
actually come if you want to know what happens at the
yeah.
after party.
What happens at the after party stays at the after party. It stays between me, you, and the megaphone. Uh, so so on the Tuesday, we essentially splitting the space. We've got two immense spaces at the Museum of London. One is a theatre style, proper TEDx style theatre, which is absolutely immense, and the other is called the Ellipse Hall, which is a fantastic space with a big wraparound LED screen,
Mm,
cabaret style. It's going to be absolutely immense. We're going to have design content happening in one space, developer content happening in another space, with a few crossover sessions as well. Because as Tom said, we want to bring those two groups of people together and network and really try and sort of like what's that? What's the business jargony phrase? Cross pollination is what we're seeking.
yeah. Yes.
And but we've got a list of a mile long of some amazing speakers. I won't shout out every single one of them, but you can see here
Yeah.
Liz Stocko, absolute legend, conversation analyst, and fairly controversial in some views, which I love. One of the posts I put out on LinkedIn recently, or fairly recently, was after I had Liz on the podcast, where she said that role play is a completely pointless activity in conversation design. And
Mm.
up until that point, I'd even taught that years ago. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do some role play. And up until that point, I thought it was a fairly sort of like, fairly straightforward, good thing to do.
She's actually written her entire talk on that subject.
Exactly, exactly.
So
And
yes,
and
that's
so
going to be a
it's
good one.
it's going to be immense, and it's such a well thought through and researched position as well, which Liz
Yeah.
is known for. So, and you can go down here. We've got speakers from Google, Karen Koshansky. We've got some really experienced people here. Matt Portillo from Amelia. We've got Daniel
Uh,
Paget, Google
we,
DeepMind. Lisa
we,
Folkson, absolute legend, so experienced in this space.
and
Um,
I know that there's some kind of other like that's not even the full list. The website hasn't been
No, I
updated.
know, I
There's
know.
some kind of iconic figures that are not on there, like Cobus Grayling,
Yes.
who's going to be kicking off the developer stage,
Yeah.
actually talking about what the impediments to actually implementing LLMs in production for kind of enterprise are, which I think is going to be a kind of a fascinating technical talk. And I think that we've got a really, I mean, it's pretty much a who's who of the conversational AI industry, and I think that's going to be really exciting. To like every single talk, I'm genuinely excited to hear.
Yeah.
And I think that we've tried really hard to kind of curate something that makes sure that every speaker is talking on something slightly different, so that you're getting kind of lots of like different varieties of perspectives. We're trying to make sure that they're each kind of bringing their own kind of unique viewpoint. I think something that's kind of very interesting that we're doing on the kind of the developer stage is we've got some of the speakers are actually going to run kind of 45-minute classes, where they're going to do kind of hands-on keyboard stuff that they're going to kind of run you through how to use something. Like I'm thinking about kind of like Andrew Morehouse, who's going to show you how to kind of how to build a system that predicts the NPS score of your conversations based on the words that the user uses, or kind of Phoebe Piercy from GridSpace showing how you can detect emotion in ASR systems. Like, these are going to be really great kind of practical take-home skills that you will be able to learn and then go off and use, in your day-to-day work. And I think that's going to be really exciting.
It's almost like kind of, sometimes when you go to a conference and it's all well and good, but not everything kind of hits the mark, and you sort of like, depending on the industry you're in and stuff like that, sometimes you'll walk away and you'll think, that talk was good, but other things less relevant. UNPARSED last year, one of the best bits of feedback that we got consistently from pretty much everyone that gave us feedback was that the agenda was brilliant. And the reason for that, one is it's so carefully curated, and Tom, you do a brilliant job at that. But also because of that, there's no overlap with content. So you're not going to go to one session and think, oh, well, I really want to be at that other session because I want to. There's none of that kind of stuff. It's purposefully organized so that if you're into more technical stuff, there's a session. If you're into more design-based stuff, there's a session. And it's almost like with these interactive sessions, it is still a conference, but it's almost like training at the same time.
Mm.
You're not going there to just listen and absorb. You're going there to do stuff. You're learning skills. You're meeting people who are facing the same challenges and problems as you are, and it's applicable across industries as well. What's interesting is that some conferences, some AI conferences, there'll be like an AI in finance conference, which will be fine, and if you work in finance, it'll be great. But UNPARS is all about those lessons, those evergreen lessons and best practice that are applicable regardless of what industry you work in, regardless of the role, really. Anything concerned with making conversational experiences work properly and effectively is what UNPARS is all about. And so you will definitely get, as Tom said, take home skills and knowledge that will, yeah. I was going to make a price comparison to how much it would cost to actually go and do this training with people. One, finding the people to do the training for you would be a nightmare. And two, it would cost you an arm and a leg, whereas you can get it all at UNPARS for a very reasonable price.
For low price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm genuinely really excited for the content that's on there. And I think the other thing that's really cool is that because like when you get a ticket, you also get access to kind of the full like online library. You can always go back and rewatch these things if you're like, oh, that was really useful. I want to be able to kind of go back and rehearse it, or learn like watch it again to kind of get more detail. Like that's something that's easy to do.
Yeah, and there is online tickets as well. If you are in another country and you can't make the travel, I would encourage people to try and make the travel, because it's always better to do this stuff in person. You meet people in person, you'll have a far better experience. but there is online tickets available as well. We've
You
already
get to
sold.
ask the speaker. You get to ask the speaker any questions that
Yeah,
you didn't know the answer to,
yeah,
which is always a little bit harder online. We do try and take
yeah,
some online questions, but like you can't go up to them after the talk's finished and be like, "Hey, that was really interesting. Here's my specific use case,"
yeah.
which you
Exactly,
can do
exactly.
in person.
That's right. And so yeah, we've pretty much sold already. We're a month out. We've sold more or less as many online tickets as we sold in the whole event last year.
Yeah.
And in terms of in-person tickets, I think we're probably just over
Yeah. But it's more.
yeah,
I think we're now we're more than we were this time. We were when we actually ran the event last year,
yeah,
and we're still a month out. So
exactly.
it's going to be significantly larger than last year.
And the good
Um,
thing about this venue is that, and the reason why we chose this venue is that yes, there are capacity limits in the rooms. However, the networking spaces and overflow areas, there is enough space. There will be a limit that we can't go over for fire regulation reasons, and so last year I think we maybe snuck over that limit. We ended up having the
I can't
venue was
believe that
maxed
you've
out.
said that publicly
I said we might have.
in a recorded video.
I said we might have. We
We
didn't
might have.
definitely do that. We might have
I
done
don't
that.
think that there was ever any formal advice one way or another whether we
No,
did.
no.
Millard.
But this event, I think we're on track to get the target, which is what we're hoping for. But the good thing about this event is that there's room to grow essentially. And so what
Yeah.
we're hoping for is that everyone last year that wanted a ticket, in the end, actually 2 weeks before the event, or at least 8 days before the event, we'd completely sold out. And so we were getting rammed with people in the last 8 days saying, "Can I get a ticket? Can I get a ticket?" And we're like, "Well, we can't. We
Yeah.
absolutely maxed out. We can't sell any more tickets." Whereas maybe we will sell out this year. I hope we do sell out this year. But I think that the point of doing this and going further with a bigger venue is so hopefully everyone has a chance to get a ticket. But that means you actually need to get your ticket, which you can do at unparsconf.com. And seeing as though we love you, if you use the promo code VUXWorld, then you will save 50% off the sticker price. And so you can't say fairer than that. Use the
Oh,
promo
there
code
you go.
VUXWorld and
If
that's it.
you've managed to listen to 40 minutes in of me and Kane like talking, especially for the first 20 minutes, just chit chatting about like the future of conversation design, then you actually have earned yourself a
You really have.
discount.
You really have.
That takes it back down to the early bird price, because of course prices are already going up and they will go up again before the event starts in another couple of weeks. So I would highly recommend that you get on and book your ticket sooner rather than later to avoid disappointment, as they would
Exactly.
say.
And the thing is that, you know, that what we have a kind of feedback capture on the website that asks people, is there anything preventing you from buying a ticket? And inevitably, what always happens, it doesn't matter what the price point of the ticket is. We did a lot of research that goes into pricing these tickets, and the price that we're selling these early bird tickets at, or at least this promo code, is well underneath the average price that we arrived at. Because when you get these tickets, when you turn up, everything's catered for. Your breakfast, your lunch, the after parties, your drinks, your tea. Apart from maybe it's on the Monday night, there's a free drink, but there's aside from that, essentially everything's laid on, and so you really don't have to do anything but turn up. And so you actually couldn't go into London and get breakfast, dinner, and tea for 3 days for the price of this ticket, which is mental. And you're getting all of the content and everything we've already mentioned on top of it, it's literally crazy. So definitely get yourself to unparsconf.com and get yourself a ticket, because it's if you use this promo code, it is tremendous value. And yeah,
Yeah.
do not miss.
I think the kind of the real thing is that this is kind of, it's just going to be a lot of fun, and it's, we've got kind of the main people from the industry from all around the world, coming to London, and spending kind of 3 days hanging out, and it's going to be a laugh, and it's going to be a really great time to kind of meet everyone and get to know everyone. And I think that it's absolutely worth attending.
100%.
Was that? I feel like we've turned into a sales pitch now.
I think, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Buy a ticket.
Buy a ticket.
Now. out. Yeah. So, but I think lastly, we've kind of alluded to our partners, but I think it's worth definitely calling out because the without our partners, the event doesn't happen essentially. And so, big shout out to VoiceFlow, Raza, Quick, Core, Radiant, Cognigy, King's College, and Bot Jobs. And what's really interesting about at least the technology providers on that list, we started this conversation talking about, the direction that this technology is heading. Does that throw a wrench in the conversation design space? And what's the future of this? And what's the future of experience design when it comes to AI? And every single one of these companies has, in Radiant's case, they've built a product to cater for the demands that developers have for hosting and utilizing large language models. In all the rest of the cases, Cognigy, Core, Raza, and VoiceFlow and Quick, they've re-architected their entire platforms around generative AI and large language models. If you see the stuff that VoiceFlow has done compared to 2 years ago where it was, it's a totally different platform. You can build any kinds of autonomous agents on that platform. Same thing with Raza. Raza have been talking about intentless language models since the dawn of time,
I know. I
isn't it?
remember the first time I played with Raza end-to-end training way back, like way back.
Yeah.
That was the moment that I knew that it was a game over for the way that we were working.
Exactly. And so it's no surprise that Raza have found some incredible use cases for large language models. Quick have got one of the best production use cases of a generative AI chatbot that I've seen to date with Loop Insurance. We did a webinar with them fairly recently looking at the case study, and it is brilliant. The Quick platform is really good. It gives you full control over all of your prompt chains. It gives you full control over all the guardrails that you have in place, which is very rare. If you look at the Googles and IBMs and those kind of bigger platforms, you don't get anywhere near as much control. And so Quick are going to be able to share with you exactly how to control and leverage these models properly. Core have introduced more product features in the last 12 months than I've seen from any vendor. You mentioned earlier, Tom, internal voice assistant. So they've got Eva, which is an internal assistant platform. They've got a search feature, which allows you to replace your website search with a generative search. They've got the typical bot building platform that most have. And then they've got Gale, which is a generative AI application builder, which is conversational in a sense, but you don't have to build conversational applications with it. And so they've really put a load of effort into really leveraging generative AI. And so you're going to learn a lot from Core. And same thing with Cognigy. Cognigy came out of the gate after November 2022 when ChatGPT was released. In that January, Cognigy were releasing features into their platform. And so all of these providers and all of these partners that have come on board with us, I'm not just saying this because we work with them all, but they are
Because
literally
they give us money.
because they give us money. But they are literally like they are at the cutting edge of this stuff.
Yeah.
They're all in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. The vast majority of them were leaders in the Magic Quadrant in 2023, and yeah, they're all doing really really great stuff. So if you want to get there and meet them, learn a bit more about that technology, learn about how you can leverage it, and learn the best practices for designing and implementing this kind of stuff, then yeah, UNPARSED is the place to be.
Nice.
All right.
That was very good. That was very well done.
There you go. So yeah, anything we've missed, Tom?
No, I mean, I think that's everything. I think just to say that it's going to be wicked. The thing that the main bit of feedback that we had from last year was that everybody loved it, but the venue wasn't great. And the thing that we've done this year is we got all the stuff that we got right last year right again, and we fixed the venue. And I promise we have fixed the venue like 100 times. Like the venue is honestly awesome. It really is worth it. It's really gonna make a great experience and a great 3 days.
Definitely. On that bombshell, then, nothing left to say, but we'll see you at UNPARSED, 17th of June in London, the big L
17th
Town,
of
the big
June.
smoke.
Yeah. Great.
Nice one.
See you there.
See you there.